Hi, let's keep going for week 5's informations. So this is the last bit of PPT. We just need to go through it to help us and clarify some issues in the slides. Now, after the previous slides, these slides indicated if the heat in both Qi level and nutritive level, and then we can using 加减玉里间. How do you know there's both level has been affected? So one is tongue, the deep or crimson tongue color, maroon color of the tongue body. It's very important, tells us problems much more severe than only Qi level. With additional restlessness, tells you some emotion spirit has been affected. All the remaining and high temperature, sweating, thirsty, yellow coat is typical heat in the Qi level condition. So we need to clear the heat from both Qi level and nutritive level simultaneously. You may do not necessary to memorize the formula name, just try to understand composition. These two ingredients present in which formula we learned a long time ago, 石膏知母. And same for these three groups. 白虎汤 good. This actually is 白虎加针叶汤. Yes, so 玄参麦冬生地黄 to represent the composition of 针叶汤, 石膏知母 represented major and deputy ingredients 白虎汤. So this is the 白虎针叶汤, which is also called 加减玉女间. To clear the heat from Qi level without damage the yin, and also cool the blood and clear toxic heat and supply the yin, deal with heat in both nutritive and blood level, can benefit from this 针叶汤. So it's all made up from original learned formula. There's questions. In last slides, why is it a small intestine heat? Okay, once they have very, very serious concentrated urinations, and they call that small intestine heat. That is one term you can use. So that's why they call that heat in the small intestine. That's for my understanding, if they make sense. Or people may have burning, painful urinations, but no UTI, no urine tract infections, just due to severe dehydration caused by excessive heat. You still can say heat in the small intestines. Thank you. Now, this slide tells excessive heat affect both Qi and blood level simultaneously. So they still have exuberant heat caused by high temperature, at the same time have bleeding. So this bleeding is presented as a macula. So skin rashes or bleeding from nose, from the gums come through. So this, at the end, you're using what? So, 知母 again, this is the 白虎汤, yes. On top of this, you still can see evidence of 针叶汤 as a, evidence of the early 玄参 inside, but this is not 生地黄. The 生甘草 will help and clear the heat from urinations. 玄参 help cool the blood, stop bleeding, supply the yin, and the rhinoceros horn, 水牛角 has used to replace the 犀角 as well as 锦鲤. So this modified 白虎汤 with additional 水牛角 and 玄参. So modified 白虎汤 become 滑瓣汤. If both yin, if a burning in the body fluid yin, at the same time nutritive yin level has been affected, and this had very severe dehydration as well as internal heat, present as kind of delirious speech, restlessness, and feet getting worse in late afternoon at night, and very severe dehydration present on lips and the mouth, and they have no desire to drink due to the burning of the heat in blood level, nutritive level. They may have skin rashes with very red crimson tongue bodies, and they have very few coating or no tongue coating, and the pulse very thin and rapid. So 清营汤, which is modified of 针叶汤 again, and this is very good options. With additional 金银花年巧, you can see in this formula. Is it common that the blood and Qi level affected, but not the nutritive level? If the bleeding comes sideways, still have exuberant high temperature, it could happen as well. Or skin rashes, just very bad maculas comes through all over the body. She had very high temperatures, so both qi and the blood level has been affected. If the tongue also shows crimson tongue bodies, so qi, blood, and nutrient, they're all affected at the same time. And this is excessive toxic in the blood level. These are very severe situations. Usually they need special attention from doctors, emergency. And this you can see very severe bleeding, very severe patches of maculas on the bodies, and some of the spirit, the mind completely out of blue, and they have comas, unconscious happening, very dark red tongue bodies. You get shocked if it happens in family members, you call ambulance, come straight away. And traditionally, using this formula helps save the life, but death rate could be very, very high if they already started unconscious coma happening. Will this formula still be used in the hospital in China? In China, what makes money and what will be used? So what makes money? Western drug. So that's my answers for you. But could be used in the countryside, yes. And next is talking about there's a heat internally, also have blood stasis simultaneously, such as constipations. At the same time, you feel tension and heart pain in lower quarter of abdomen due to constipations. It's a constipation. At the same time, you can see dark color of the stool, or emotion has been affected, maniac, or people suddenly have no more period. When period time, they become manic attack and pose a deep, forceful, and hesitant. It's typical blood stagnation, blood clots blockage with internal Yang Fu obstructions. Tao Ren Chen Qi Tang can be used. There's one specific story I heard from one of the Shanghai specialists. He has been using this formula to deal with a lady. She has been suffering mental disorder for quite a few years. Went to the many hospitals, different practitioners, has never ever been resolved. Very, very beautiful lady. And until he met this lady, asking what happened initially. They say initially they went to the rice field. The rice field is near to the mountain. A lot of water comes from snowy mountain. So not Australian snow mountain. So the mountain have a snow. So when the warm weather comes and the snow melted, the waters are used for irrigations in the water field. So when they're planting these plants at that season, she also had her period due at that moment. After finished all the field work, and she started to show some symptoms of mental disorders like a maniac, has been diagnosed as a kind of schizophrenic and taking medication. None of them resolved all this, her condition. Every month during the menstruation times, and she's going to have this kind of outbreak of schizophrenia like conditions comes out. So she has been teased, has been in some way has been talked about by the villagers. Eventually the specialist believed because working in the rice field, the cold water melted from the snow has entered into her anal, lodged in her uterus. That's why all these kind of mental disturbance happened during her menstruation monthly. So he applied formula similar like this formula, Tao He Chen Qi Tang. Before the few days before her menstruation start, and help remove all the internal blood stagnations and help to deal with constipation. The reason choosing this formula, another reason is when she went for the consultation, her mouth emitted very, very bad odor, very strong, horrible smells. Her tongue shows out, had very yellow, thick, greasy tongue coating, dry, thick tongue coating in the middle sections of her tongue. And tongue shows very, very dark red and horrible smells. It looks like a heavy smoker, but she never smoked. So this is kind of excessive heat trapped in the Yang Fu organ, also with blood stasis and lodged in her uterus. And after a few months of treatment, and her condition much better improved. 10 years later, a lady holding the babies in her arms went to visit the specialist again, and told him that the patient, after get good treatment from the specialist, not just improve her menstruation, mental state, and also the lady get married and had very healthy child born from the family. So all the problem resolved from this traditional treatment. No Western medication helped her, but these very good specialists using classic formulas and treating her. That is very, very good one. And this is a good story to remember. And also remind us, if for ladies, you are going to have your menstruations, don't try avoiding catch any cold and damp for this. Don't believe I'm still young, I'm still healthy, and they can trap within your system. And one day when the circumstance is ready, it's going to cause some trouble. So they become latent pathogens trapped into your system, either resulting joints aching and pain. If they affect the uterus for women, very easy affect not just reproductive systems, can affect the mental state as well. So do be aware about how to look after ourselves. Same for men as well. Do look after yourself. Do not, if it's unnecessary, catch a cold or rain if it's possible. And sitting in the wet concrete is not recommended for both gender, especially for women. Even for young kids, it's not recommended in winter, but in summer it's fine because all concrete is very, very hot under the sun. But in wet, damp season, don't do that kind of practice. You can sit in a wood chair. So we can see in some park, some chair is built up with metals, built up with concrete. They are not very healthy for human being in general, unless you have very good cushions. You have very good insulations or carry on the cushions with you before you're sitting down. So do look after ourselves. Next, regarding the heat and flames to the pericardium causing unconsciousness, I'll leave it for self-study. These are very severe conditions, and we don't have a chance to resolve that. If one day you can access to these kind of formulas in the part of the Asian countries or in some part of the world and travel in the forest, especially in a very damp, cold environment, maybe can help you protect, save for some unnecessary life situation in the danger. And same for this one, the heat and flame affect the pericardium, all this formula, and they are very, very hard to be accessed in the ordinary paths. And so you can get this one easier, but this is also difficult to practice here based on the legal principle. So we'll leave it for self-study as well. Heated car seats. Heated car seats is lovely to sitting on top of that in cold weather. It's lovely, very nice. If people suffering convulsion due to the heat, general internal wind, and 菱角钩沉汤 is a good practice. The pity thing is due to major ingredients is illegal. We have to using the buffalo horn to replace this one. Or if you have a golden handy and with tianma handy, you can drinking this kind of tea constantly. But they're not as effective as the 羚羊胶, not as effective as the intensive care with specific support. Some of convulsion happen in children, can cause serious suffocations, wind block, and become very, very bad danger. So be careful when children start to have high temperatures, start to have horrible convulsion, and either try to control the temperatures if you have any kind of materials handy at home, either ice cubes, medication, children's medications, or call ambulance, or do bloodletting. Bloodletting can help minimize these kind of high temperatures cause of the convulsion suffering. But only one thing to bear in your mind, you are going to able to tolerate screaming and cry from the children. And when you get good bloodletting treatment achieved, and temperature will be much better managed. Can tianma replace 羚羊胶? No. Not as strong as 羚羊胶. It's better using 水牛胶, large dosage 水牛胶. But it's better than nothing. So tianma still can be used if there's none of the other things available. Tianma is much more gentler. Yeah. 侍奉. Okay. When you have a convulsion, you have to do bloodletting. Bloodletting in which part of the body is very easy to practice bloodletting practice? Where do you practice bloodletting when you have high temperature? Good. Tip of finger, tip of toes. 侍奉 is only do that for children suffering malnutrition, for people who have sluggish lymphatic drainage. So 侍奉 is not used to practice to deal with high temperatures. Thank you. So ear apex and fingertips or tip of toes are very common areas to perform bloodletting and very easy to be successful to draw the blood out. So if people you find difficult to draw the blood out, remember doing the massage from the area of the heart towards the peripheral regions and massage a bit and squeezing the sufficient blood in the terminal and do bloodletting. Definitely you'll get blood, 1 or 2 drops. But only on a sunny day. What's that mean? Only on sunny day do bloodletting? You can do bloodletting in any kind of weather if the high temperature related to wounding and cause of emotion, cause about conscious changes. All right. It's very good you're concerned about the weather when they do bloodletting. Now, you have 2 options. One is people have very high temperature causing unconsciousness and maybe leading to the death. There's no ambulance available. Secondly, there's a raining day at the same time, they have same very high temperature, it's going to go to death or may catch the damp cold by doing bloodletting. Which one are you going to choose? Let them go to die straight away or possible chances you're going to save them at the same time to catch the damp cold. Which one you're choosing? And make the best options you are going to decide which one you're choosing and depends on your judgment. So for me, I'll choose bloodletting to make sure to save life first. When life has been saved, get a bit of damp cold can be resolved later. If life already going to go definitely, it's no point to worry about they're going to have a damp cold effect. So that's my choice then. But if some religion, some special belief, they cannot accept bloodletting, and that's a choice. So I cannot change their beliefs in their mind. Blazing heat due to kidney yin deficiency. And this usually talking about later stage unresolved wind-beam heat still internally. At the same time shows more severe irritability, insomnia, with insufficient tongue coating, red tongue body presented. They feel more hot in late afternoon at night. More mind disturbing at night time. Pulse could be rapid but insufficient in the forces, much more thin. So 黄连阿胶汤 can be used, using both 2 yellow brother 黄连黄芩 to clear up remaining the heat, using other 阿胶白芍鸡子黄 to supply the yin, consolidated Jing essence at the same time. You can see very rarely we see the 黄连 using such a large dosage, isn't it? So you do need to be careful about choosing the proper dosage based on their heat pathogens levels in the bodies or based on your experience. If you're using too much of these kind of bitter dried herbs, very easy damage the yin. So tonify the yin herbs are very essential in this case to modify the natures of overall dry and dehydrating natures of 2 yellow brother 黄连黄芩 here. And some people, when they have both liver and kidney yin deficiency, and they show not much of convulsions, instead it shows very bad palpitations. In this way, as well as fatigue, and this way you can using 炙甘草汤 or modify the 炙甘草汤 because these irregular pulses here. So 炙甘草, still very large dose. These 2 ingredients are major composition inside of 炙甘草汤, remember? And 火麻仁、麦门冬、阿胶、白芍 used to supply the yin. So this is 加减复脉汤, still help to restore the pulses, modified 炙甘草汤. So this is come from 炙甘草汤 modifications. Again, this is still have a kind of convulsion, wind-like conditions, but not very, very bad. Instead, a localized muscle spasm or tremor, at the same time associated fatigue and feel hot at night. And palpitations much more severe, maybe a little bit of pain around the chest. So very severe palpitations here. And have very, very poor and the pulses related to the regularities. So you're still using modified 炙甘草汤. You still can see the chief ingredients, 炙甘草 and 生地 related with 炙甘草汤. On top of this, they added mineral shell products, 牡蛎, and also this kind of turtle shell products to help calming. This is very essential to deal with wind cause of a kind of the convulsion-related condition using yin tonified, at the same time using other ingredients suppressing the yang and help dealing with extinction internal wind. If you don't like animal products, and this one you can replace with maybe just a 天麻 golden in these cases, but they are different, but still it's better than nothing. And these also animal products for the 阿胶 here. If you don't use 阿胶 gelatin, using 白木耳, they still have similar gelatin, but they are different colors. These have more blood tonified. 白木耳 does not have blood tonified here. It's a bit harder for vegetarian vegans and using these kind of the formulas to consolidate Jing essence and Yin at the same time, control the disturbing wind. 贝母 is good, clear the heat, nourish the Yin. And 贝母 is not, they don't have ability to same strength like the 鳖甲 and the 阿胶 in these cases here. Thank you. 白木耳 only can help supply the yin. They don't supply the jing. They can clear heat and supply the collagens, but they're not as strong as 阿胶. 阿胶 also can tonify the blood. Yes, Charlie.
I can't hear that you say 白木 instead of
白木耳. Or 国家 already talking about 白木耳. Yeah.
Thanks.
White fungi. Yeah. Thank you. Next is the kind of remaining or residue of this kind of unresolved liver and kidney heat can have a long-lasting lower grade of fever and in the later stage after suffering the wounding and causing a lot of the disturbing sleep for the people, a lot of unnecessary sweating at night, lots of the reduced appetite suffering, as well as and very hard put on the weight, and they're very, very dry on their skin. So for this scenario, qing hao, remember these are very light aromatic herbs used in wounding. So qing hao biejiao tang is an excellent choice. So qing hao, even very gentle, they still chief here to vent the heat to superficial level with additional animal byproducts here to supply the yin and also can sedate, calming the mind. With large dose 生地黄知母 and 牡丹皮 to clear the remaining heat, to remove the stasis, also tonify the qing. So if you don't have a 鳖甲 available, you can use egg yolk together with the silver fungi to supply the yin and the qing as a kind of combinations here. But qing hao is very important ingredients and used in wound-being problem solving in early stage and later stage, even used for the whole range of level to vent and gently to clear the heat. Now, any questions? All the slides presented in the blackboard has just been discussed. Silver fungi is the same as white fungi. Yeah, same. You can using. Do we have a BH? I don't think we can encourage using animal products here, but if you do have a BHR available and the breed itself, that's okay. But do we allow to sell that in the market? We don't have a market to sell the BHR, but we do have to sell the turtles. But we do have a BHRs in the shop, and because we're not encouraged to use an animal byproduct, that's why I mentioned can use a substitute. Has BHR been banned? I can't remember, sorry. Has BHR been banned? Nope. Okay, so that means we can use it. The only one thing when we're using animal products, we need to tell the clients, smells very, very strong. Fishy smells, so very, very strong. 龟板 BHR using. Okay, all right. Thank you. So what we have been discussed today, some information maybe not as good as we we expect it to clearly understanding. So let's have a look using these kind of revisions to help us to clarify some issues, some information sent today.
I have a question, Yingmei.
Yes, Alyssa.
Sorry if you have answered this before. I was just wondering, so there are a lot of different types of patterns with a lot of different types of formulas. Some are familiar formulas, some are new ones. How should we go about ingesting and remembering all of this information? Or
Okay.
what are your suggestions
Yeah.
there?
Through interpretations, I already utilized a lot of learned formula. So that's a way to try to understand the composition. And it's up to us. If we want to remember every individual formula, go ahead. That's a traditional way for the Chinese to learn the TCM. Because now we live in a modern era. Yes, everybody wants to find shortcut. So what I do is before the exam, I will give a list of formula, prepare for the exam. So for the time being, try to understand each formula within each slide. That's my suggestions, if they make sense for your questions.
Okay, so try to understand how each of the formulas work.
Try understand their compositions, yes. And then you will understand their actions, yes.
And as far as the different types of presentations that occur, any suggestions there?
For the assignment, you don't need to utilize all these kind of the patterns for the one topic. You only need to using the relevant pattern based on your selected clinical manifestation to discuss it. So this just tells you most common pattern could relate with the spring worms. That's it.
Okay. Do you mean for the exam that these are the
for the exam, I will give you a list of the formula and correspond to certain patterns before the exam. Yes, for the time being, I cannot minimize that kind of number yet. So
okay.
Purpose of subject is for learning, understand concept. It's not for exam. Exam very easy. Passing subject, nobody have troubles at all unless we don't do any study.
No, I absolutely believe in not studying just for the exam. It's more I can study and I can understand the different patterns, but I feel like there's a difference in understanding the different patterns and how things present and then memorizing them. And I'm just wondering what I should put my
You're not required to purely memorize it without understanding. Once you can understanding, that's good.
Okay.
That means you've done your work, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
If we also have a computer memories, do so. Especially for people young in their later 10s, in the 17s, 18s, that's the time it's good for memory. But as for most of us as adult students, try to understand it. And that's plenty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, any more questions? Thinking about if you do not remember it, there's no food, you will get everything the old way, what I heard. Okay, now every learning procedures involved understanding memory, but for children, we just memorize without understanding it. For the adult-based learning is to understand it. So how do you understand formula? Try to understand their composition. Because all the individual herbs you already learned, most of that you already learned from material study, yes, herbal material study, and try to dissecting this kind of composition, which can remind you some learned formula through the formula study and other subject study, and then this can help you to trigger the better way to memorize it. So through the understanding, you can memorize it. We all know sugar is delicious. How do you know that? Because you taste it. And then people mention different sweet dishes. You never tried to eat it, but you still could recall the sweetness. Does that make sense? Because our bodies have cellular memories. Once you experience taste the sweetness in our life, we never forget it, especially repeat it again and again and again and again. Okay, let's have a look if we understand today's topics or not through this kind of revision. So what has been discussed today? Concept and features of the spring worms, yes? And basic etiologies, pathologies about spring worms, and basic principle of treatment and questions about spring worms, and common patterns. So common pattern. This is the most boring part for us because it's so hard to memorize it. And a case study to help us later on to remember, recall some informations. So what's the definition? Here I have highlighted. What's the definition of spring worms? So they happen in what season? So what's clinical manifestations, features compared with wingworms? So they don't have noticeable external pathogen. It comes straight away, internal heat. And very quick onset. They changes very quickly. You don't need waiting for 7 days or 1 week, yes? And because the severe heat causes very severe clinical manifestations. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So what's the difference between these points compared with wingworms? Wingworms does not have what? Does not have this internal initial excessive heat, yes? The wingworms does not have very severe clinical conditions initially. And wingworms does not change as quick as the springworms. So there's a difference between wingworms and springworms. So there's a typical feature of springworms. Any questions? Yes, wingworms obviously external pathogens to start with, or external syndromes to start with. Now, does that help us understanding different wingworms now? Just highlight this 5 circle of red. Yep, good, that's it. So you don't need to memorize, it's just understanding through comparison. So here give explanations. In the spring season, the weather's temperature is fluctuated rapidly, and it is peak seasons for spring worms. So that tells you why spring worms happen in spring, because of what? Fluctuated weather, wind. And second part, the spring worms is active terms for seasonal febrile disease in the spring, such as seasonal febrile disease, such as severe influenzas, epidemic cerebral spinal meningitis, and all the other toxic heat involved in spring season. So spring worms is TCM terms to describe when being happening in the spring. But there's other conventional term, biological term used to describe a lot of very severe, quick onset, high temperature involved of the infectious disease involved. So this helps you understanding about latent pathogens or not. So first tells you, yes, spring worms only happen in spring. That's why I call it spring worms. Thank you. Now, second is regarding to the what is trigger points. Here tells attacked by cold pathogens in winter. If this pathogen cannot be resolved, so if attacked by cold pathogen in winter, we call the Sanghan. Yes. If the Sanghan has been resolved through diaphoretic, there's no trouble at all. Everything becomes peaceful. But if the pathogen cannot be resolved, they are going to be incubated internally. Anything through the incubation, like a curing food, fermented food, they can transform into warm or heat. So water molecules lost through the food preparation procedures. Here is due to the cold goes to from the Taiyang division, go to Yangming or Shaoyang, even 3 yin divisions. That's why it become heat pathogens. And then these kind of turning changes, wind, warm heat, and will be spreading outwards in the spring season. Why they can be spreading outwards in the spring season? Because in the spring season, excuse me, in the spring season, what's happening for the body? Everything become like wood nature, beautiful. Thank you, Alyssa. So everything start upwards, outwards. That's why your muscles getting loose, your pore of the skin start opening, and your body start relaxing, going more walking outside, have much more outing. So that's why all these pathogens also spreading outwards and presented as a kind of, if they come to the surface and they can present as kind of excessive heat syndromes in internal qi level. So still have remaining internally, partially, externally, and then in TCM, they call the Fu Han Hua Wen. You don't need to memorize these terms at all. It's only for Chinese. This is basic translations, interpretation for this term. So if you see any books talking about the pinyin like this, so this is interpretation. What that means about original unresolved, trapped cold, and transformed into warm pathogens, which outbreak break out in the spring season. Second, or incubated heat induced by external wind heat pathogen or caused windworms disease. So one is induced by season. The first one induced by season, yes. Second is induced by seasonal pathogen. Does that make sense? So these two paragraphs actually answer the question initially asked by a few of you from the first hours. So this is induced, secondly, induced by pathogens in that season of the spring, and then resulting spring worms pathogens. Give you a typical example. Which season and people very easy to feel sorrow and sad? Autumn. Autumn is a season correlated with sun. All the embedded sadness comes out spontaneously without going any kind of funeral, without seeing any kind of tragedy. When you see the leaf and is shading and coming off from the tree, you sense the death of the energies and then trigger out sorrow from internally. Yes, but if in the autumn you also went to the funeral, that means it can trigger more severe sorrows comes out from the body. So that's first seasonally related sorrow in the autumn. Second is in the autumns, also you went to the funeral, causing more severe sorrow comes out. It's similar like this kind of spring worms. So does this example help us to understand the difference between the trapped cold comes out spontaneously in the spring, and trapped cold comes out, triggered out from spring season's wind cold pathogens? Does it help us understand the difference between the two? But they all ended up clinically present as a kind of spring worms and manifestations. So that's what is this. It is very quick onset and exuberant heat and very quick transmissions and happen in the spring. And no obvious external pathogens, no external, obviously, syndromes involved. So dominated by internal heat. Some of them, maybe if you have medical training, you can notice a little bit, very brief external syndromes, but dominated by internal heat, so high temperature straight away. And autumn is the season for executing, yes, because related with death. Yeah, you're right. Okay, probably it's not proper example for us if it's offended with a belief. I'm sorry for that one, but they help you understanding similar things happen in spring, and that's my purpose. Now, any question for this part? And if you still have trouble understanding what happened for the spring worms, are they always need triggered by pathogens? Not necessary. Have to happen in the spring. So triggered by season of spring, or triggered by the season of the pathogens happen in the spring. Now, this is exercise you can fill it up based on previous slides information. Now, here's a note. Like drinking wine, eating heavy and oily food with internal damp heat as a kind of precursor constitutions, they can come out as excessive syndromes in the 3 young divisions as a Qi level conditions. If people have constitution insufficiency with internal heat and winter cold pathogens incubations and cause of kind of latent pathogens, they can go to in level straight away. So which tells you what? Which condition is more severe for spring worms? So once you have any kind of unresolved pathogen, that's we discussed for the first topic, when you have unresolved pathogen, latent pathogen inside, like we have spy, in this kind of colony. They also have enemies at front. They want to invading this kind of colony. And then if you have internal spy and connecting with enemies together, the whole colony very easy to be conquered. Same thing for this one. So if you have incubated pathogen internally, and you can lead into this pathogen to inside very quickly because it's a shortcut. Yes, do look after body yin energies in cold season or in high temperature related illness sufferings. Thank you. Did I answer your questions, Lucy? Yin is body fluid. Yeah, yin is nutritive yin. So it's different. When the heat involves nutritive yin, body yin very easy, causing overconsumption. Thank you. You can fill this gap from previous informations in the slides. So here is a specific cautions regarding to spring worms. Contraindicated apply pungent and warming herbs to disperse if the heat is severe. Second, contraindicated apply only bitter and cooling herbs because they are causing serious dehydration. You have to add some sweet and salty herbs to help generate yin. Number third, contraindicated apply diuretic at the early stage because they can further what? Depleted the body fluid through the enhanced urination. Number fourth, contraindicated apply heavy and nourished herb in early stage because they can trap the heat without and allowed recurrent qi dynamics can cause more severe heat trapped internally. So heavy nourished herbs do not use in early stage. Use very gentle light herbs to look after yin perspective. Now, any question for this slide? So all the information already provided. If you can read it, understand it, it's very easier. We go ahead. All right. Okay, let's have a try. We can participate it to march between left column to right column. First is unresolved external wind cold with internal heat in the qi level. What formula we should use? Cong Chi Jie Gen Tang. Thank you very much. Because Cong is spring onion for wind cold resolve, very good one. And Chi is a dou Chi, fermented soybean. It's good, clear heat through urinations, deal with heat in the qi level. It's good one. Jie can also help restore the qi dynamics. It's wonderful. Have other ingredients can suit for this condition. Second is concerned heat in the Shaoyang gallbladder. Good. Huang Qing. This is modified Huang Qing Tang with Zhizi Chi Tang. Wonderful. Number D. D is exerting heat in the chest and diaphragm with obstructed yang large intestines. We're using remember this. Okay, we're going to rematch. Can I clean it? Can I clean them all? Or I choose using different color. Yes, so this is correct. This is better. This is the correct one. So this is not proper one. Number C. Has anybody did number C yet? Number C and the number E. So I put a color here. The things red in color are correct. So mild heat congestion in the chest diaphragm, 栀子池塘, excellent. And number E, exhibiting in the stomachs with fluid injury, and 白虎汤, wonderful, excellent. Is that simple? Does that make sense? Doesn't make sense. Okay, what's happening, Wenli? Can I help you to make it easier? Which part does not make sense?
Actually, I understand, but this is some formula we haven't learned before, so it's not really simple. But I think when the exam time, I can modify by myself.
Okay. All the formula we discussed today. So the only things is I mentioned this is modified Huang Qing Tang with the 栀子池汤. Huang Qing Tang is modified 小柴胡汤, so which can help us easy to understanding.
Right.
And 葱池桔梗汤, if you know spring onion, what's action? And this is fermented soybean, you know basic actions. Spring onion help us sweating, relieve wind cold in the surface. And fermented soybeans to help what? Clear the heat through which part? Urination. So these heat and qi levels. And 栀子池汤 only 2 ingredients. So 栀子 and 豆豉 only 2 ingredients. 凉格盏 we learn in the formula. The cleared heat and upper gel and the middle gel have both excessive in the chest as well as constipation. So this we learned long time ago. 白虎汤 we learned long time ago. Excessive in the stomachs with body fluid injury. So that's a 白虎汤, big 4 syndromes. So some of the information we actually consolidating through the learning happened in the past. Forgetting is normal. We keep forgetting and keep picking up, keep forgetting, keep pick up, and slowly by slowly, we understand it, remember it, and easy to know that one. Same example for people driving car, go home. Because they've been go through that path for many times without the GPS, they just can get to the home with no trouble. But once the other people, they are new, they ask them, describe the path. And people can drive the home with the same car. Maybe they cannot describe the name of each street, but they can never ever get lost. It's similar like learning the herbs. When we're familiar with the name, with basic actions, functions, again, and it can come out conclusion very easily. Thank you. It's a good one, can help us understand it in the way. Thanks. Now have a try this one. Severe dry and heat in the large intestines combined with qi and yin deficiency. Second is severe dry and heat in large intestine combined with excessive heat in the small intestine. Last one, severe yin and fluid depletion in large intestine combined with heat pathogen. So for this one, they all new formula for us, yes, but we know they all have some level of 承气汤 inside, yes. But the thing is, they help us understand. We know 针叶汤, we learn in the formula. You may also remind you this kind of formula name in the internal med. 导赤, we learn the 导赤 in the formula. We know 导赤 means what? Cleared heat through which part of body? 赤 means red, small intestine, heart, yes, heart. So this heart is heat, the redness correlates with heart and small intestine. So this means 导赤, cleared heat from urine, 承气, cleared heat from bowel movement. So from this kind of interpretation, and you know they have to have what? Something related with this. Thank you. And this one, 新加黄龙汤, we have no idea. You can leave the free. 针叶, you know, 针叶 supply the yin, and this is open the bowel. So these have yin deficiency, must be involved, have toxic in the blood. These have excessive yang ming fu organ. So these have dryness involved, and with, severe yin deficiency involved with intestinal dryness heat. So this is correct one, is this one. I'm sorry, it's not this. There's a C with a 3, and then left behind is left behind, last one. So this is slowly shading the onion, and then you can get a final one. So for if we are going to have multiple choice for the exams, this is the best way, slowly eliminating and slowly dissecting. So you do not require memorize all this formula. You can slowly dissecting, but if the final 2 formula, you got no idea to assess, and then you can guess 50% correct. So that's the only way you can resolve. I know it's not traditional way for learning. So in olden day, we go through apprenticeships. If you're doing study like this, your master work is very sad. Okay, we're going to clean this one. So what's the severe correct one? The dryness, heat in large intestines, excessive in the small intestine is 导赤散. Severe dryness in large intestine with qi and yin deficiency is this, and then severe yin deficiency with excessive heat in the colon is this. Thank you. All right. Now here's a note about all of this kind of the formula can help to open the bowel. We know 承气汤 family from Classics 1 study, from formula study. So that means we already studied this twice. So that means from the 温病学, and then from 温病 concept, so many formula built up from 承气汤 family. So 6 modified 承气汤 formula. And for the exam, you only need to know 宣白承气汤 and 针叶承气汤. So this help you to reduce workload. All the rest, it's up to you. If you can learn of that, it's never ever will hurting you if you can remember more than the 2 formula. These 2 have to be very important to know all the details, everything about these 2 formula. All the rest you should be familiar, and the basic actions, that'd be plenty. So I said that'd be plenty. If you don't know that one, you don't lose anything, maybe 1 or 2 marks. Okay, have a try this part. How many new formula? 清银糖 we learned before. There's only 1 formula we learned, isn't it? All the rest of the new one. This is very smart. So remember that example of maniac schizophrenic diagnosis lady could not function properly, always during the menstruation had manic attack after working in the water field. It's a good one. So number E is a 5. Number D is bleeding due to excessive heat and toxic in the blood level. So this can be used by 清银汤, can be used by this if we have that available. And burning of the both the yin and the yin in the yin level, we need to tonify the yin. 加煎汤, heat flaring in both qi and blood level. Okay, these require memories. Intensive heat in both qi and nutritive level. 清银汤. It is definitely correct. So this requires a little bit guessing if you have no idea besides of 清银汤 and 桃核承气汤. So 桃核, we know 桃仁承气汤, we know 桃仁 is improve blood circulation, remove stasis. Yes, this is what? Constipation. So this one can guessing. 清银汤, by checking this name, you have to know a little bit memories from the formula study to clear the heat from nutritive level. All the rest will be challenged, but this is modified 白虎汤. So if you know this modified 白虎汤, easy to work it out. But the 地黄犀角 is good for excessive heat in the blood. 地黄 is consolidated gene essence, so something must have a heat and nutritive level, blood level, and clear toxic heat. So you can dissect from this way. And this is a difficult one. This is completely different Chinese terminologies here. All right. All right, I'll clean this one. Okay, what is for what? 桃仁承气汤 is for this. Yes. Bleeding due to excessive heat blood level, ideally for this one. If you don't have this formula, you can use this as a substitute. Burning yin in the nutritive level, and then using this one, qi flares up and blood level. Is that right? Did I just misleading? If you're not sure, check the slides we discussed in the previous hours, and you can get much better answers. Thank you. I can make an error as well. I hope I'm not human, one day become immortal. Now, there's a note in the early stage of springworm's disease, incubated heat, scorching, so body fluid, and present as nutritive syndromes that could happening. And also springworm disease, having qi levels syndromes initially, then heat entering nutritive level, present as syndromes of both qi and nutritive levels of scorching heat, or heat go to pericardium, causing unconsciousness or delirious speech. And both of these above syndromes have more severe yin damage. The last one, the heat in the blood level usually happen in later stage of springworm disease, with heat consumes liver, blood, and the kidney gene. All right. This is a comparison for 2 formula. One is 桃核承气汤, learned in the Sanghan Lun. Second is 桃仁承气汤. Only 1 character changes and compositions are completely different. The sharing first 3 ingredients, 大黄、芒硝 and 桃仁. For the 桃合成气汤, they have 桂枝甘草 to resolve unresolved 太阳 external wind. But for the 桃仁成气汤, they have 芍药 牡丹皮 当归 and deal with blood stasis and remove blood stasis, also supply the yin. So you can see their overall purpose, overall actions difference due to the different compositions of the 桂枝甘草 and 芍药丹皮当归. I'll leave this one for self-study because we'll never ever have a chance to see this kind of condition. Only want to figure out which pattern we can apply 青蒿鳖甲汤, because 青蒿 plays a very important role in Wenbing problem solving clinically. And 青蒿we know from modern research used for what? Malaria control, malaria treatment. So which condition fitting into this? We leave the rest for you to be free. Which one? Usually when you're using 青蒿, the temperature is not very, very high. So only mild one, some residue, little bit. So looks like this is much more common one. And if it's not correct, you figure it out by yourself to check it with the previous concern. Some people say this one. So check it with previous information, which one. Ideally, 青蒿is very good to deal with the residue of the heat, to vent the heat out to superficial levels. You have a huge 青蒿trees, plants near my house. It's good. They can grow like a weed. And by collecting it on proper season, you dry it and can use it for either drinking tea or burn it to control the mosquitoes. You need to check online. So I'm not very, very sure about this one. Thank you, Michelle. Sorry, Michelle. Differential the hand or feet draining from Shaoyin syndromes in coma and convulsion could be very necessary for us in the practice if working in the hospital. So here theoretically it tells you for convulsion and coma and contact. So you biting your teeth, you cannot allow people to check in the tongue, or the tongue not able to stitch out, become stiff, and vexation unresolved hand Shaoyin syndrome related. But for the other one, if it's stiffness, the tongue, coma, and vexation involved, as more Shaoyin involved. So this can be complicated. But the conventional terms all go to emergency. And you have to have what? They are going either to cutting specific slice on your windpipes to help your breathing if you have lots of flame, have a biting teeth, or they're using special tongue press and compressing to help you to avoiding self-harm for your tongue. So most of these conditions will end up in the emergency hospital. But can you read it through to help understand the difference between these two patterns yourself? So that means if they're not possible in the practical level, are they going to be examined or not? It's a common sense, yes? Thank you. All right. Now, there's also need some matching exercise here for basic syndrome related symptoms and formulas here. We know 青蒿鳖甲汤 we learned today. I'm not sure about if you learned 益胃汤 in your internal med or not, but both of these have a specific ability to help dealing with some level of heat to look up some yin deficiency. And I leave the syndrome for you to read itself. So which formula deal with heat pathogens hidden in the yin level? Which one deal with heat has relieved with unresolved stomach yin? In recovering stage of springworm disease, dry throat and mouth, just thirsty, red tongue, body fluid, and winter coating. How about I reverse this one? if we have a doubt about which formula matched to which pattern, and read the previous slides carefully, and then we will know which one is much more clearly help answer. The first answer is correct. The syndrome with the matched syndrome diagnosis with the symptoms here, manifestations, correct. Okay, let's have a look. To exercise again to try utilize formula we named today. Fever, aversion to cold, headaches and no sweating, thirst, dark urinations, floating rapid pulses, and red tongue. So what kind of diagnosis, what principle of treatment, what formula? Based on the given three formula, which one should be used? So which one we need to cancel that straight away? Because they still have Taiyang division conditions, to have both exterior and interior conditions simultaneously. We take off Bai Hu Tang. Thank you very much. And then in what circumstances we using Sang Ju Yin? In which way we're using and Cong Ci Jie Gen Tang? So Sang Ju is purely wind heat external condition. So here for this one have mixed external wind cold and internal heat. So using Cong Ci Jie Gen Tang. And that's why spring onion, you can use it in your dish making at home. For the weather, have cold, you feel a little bit chill, make very nice soup to drink by yourself or cook with other dishes and stir fry. They can help you get very mild perspiration and resolve superficial cold and effectively. Oh, here have answers. Yes, good. And here's the composition, Cong Bai and Jie Gen as a combination, resolve superficial wind cold. This is Zhi Zi Chi Tang, resolve internal heat. And Bo He Nian Qiao was supporting, resolving both qi level and wind level, trap the pathogens. So this superficial pathogens resolved by Bo He, qi level heat can be controlled by Nian Qiao. And the Danzhu cleared heat through the urinations. And Gancao modified herbal natures there. Very gentle dosage. Based on the initial number, you can see very gentle dosage. Now, how about this one? Alternating chills and fever. We know it's Shaoyang division conditions, yes. Or fever without the chills. So even fever without chills, once the bitter taste in the mouth tells you still have what? Congestion heat. In what organ? In which organ? Gallbladder, thank you. So bitter taste in the mouth is typical in TCM, understand as a congestion heat in gallbladder. And also thirsty, possible nausea, irritability, and yellow urinations. Typical heat has been trapped in Shaoyang gallbladder organs. So based on the Classics 1 study, you can using modified Xiao Cai Hu Tang based on the Wenbing concept. And you're using first formula, modified Huang Qing Tang, Huang Qing 加豆子玄参汤. So Huang Qing Tang is modified of Xiao Cai Hu Tang anyway. And Bai Hu Tang is not suitable because Bai Hu Tang for big four, and there should have no nausea involved and no bitter taste as a typical concern, but thirsty and pounding pulses, high temperature is okay, but should not have nausea, should not have bitter taste, a typical one. Sang Ju Yin is not strong enough to clear the heat internally, so that's why it goes through eliminations. Does it make sense? Help us to eliminate what formula is the most suitable for these cases. Is that okay? It's okay, thank you. Now, next one, no, not next one, here's the answers. So this is modified Xiao Cai Hu Tang. Without the Cai Hu, only have Huang Qing, and with additional Shan Yao and Zhi Gan Cao and Da Zao look after middle jiao spleen to make spleens warmer, good, and have minimize rebellion stomach qi. With Huang Qing descending, clear the gallbladder's congestion heat. With additional Dou Ci Xuan Shen supporting, clear the heat in qi level and also cleared heat through both bowel movement and urination simultaneously. Xuanzhen and yuanzhen, the same herbs, different dialect in China. So some part of people call that yuanzhen, some people call it xuanzhen. But it all looks the same pieces of the herbs, the dark pieces, similar like Romania of di huang. And tastes even similar if you cook in a microwave. It's very sweet, cold, but it's also salty. And next is a fever, dry stool, fatigue, shortness, breathing, dry lips, and the mouth and the throat, thirsty, thin, weak pulses, dry, yellow, black, cold. And what condition this belongs to? This definitely is internal heat. So what organ involved? Yang Ming Fu organ straight away, yes. Internal heat, not in the channel, in the Fu organ. As well as what organ involved, also have qi, possible qi deficiency, cause of fatigue and short breathing, possible body fluid deficiency. Yes. So what formula can help look after constipation, also supply the yin and the qi? Xinjia Huanglong Tang. Thank you very much. So this actually is not just exercise for the diagnosis, also exercise to recall the possible formula has been discussed in the preview hours of slides. Definitely not Sang Juyin. Yes, it's impossible to be Sang Juyin. And it's not Shaoyang condition, so not Huang Qing Jia Dou Ci, this one. So not Shaoyang condition, it's Yang Ming conditions here. Yang Ming large intestine Fu have dried stool. Good one. Oh yes, here have the Xinjia Huanglong Tang. So this is Zhenye Tang composition. And this is what this formula called? Composition, mimic what formula? We learn in formula study and also have that online quiz for the online quiz A or B, I can't remember. We should be able to remember this one. Not Da Chen Qi Tang, because containing Gan Cao. Tiao Wei Chen Qi Tang. Thank you very much. So Tiao Wei Chen Qi Tang. And this is next group is tonify the qi and the blood. And with modify the natures of ginger juice here. Wonderful. So this is Zhenye Tang. This is Tiao Wei Chen Qi Tang, modified with qi and blood tonified ingredients at the bottom. Next one, fever, irritability, hot sensation in the chest and epigastric regions, dried mouth, lips, throat, and also constipation and dried stool. So they have a heat internally, also have excessive heat in the Yang Ming Fu organs. So we need to clear the heat, dealing with driedness. They have a heat, has driedness in the Yang Ming Fu organs. So we need what formula? Heat in the upper jiao, heat in the middle jiao, and with constipation, 两格散. This formula we did not go through detailed study in formula, and only required people know this is mainly used for constipation related with possible sore throat or excessive heat in both up and middle jiao. That's all. Definitely, 栀子池汤 is not strong enough, and 黄芩加豆豉玄参汤 more deal with what? Shaoyang conditions involved, so it's not good enough. This is more Yang Ming Fu organ with upper jiao excessive heat, so 两格散 will be proper choices here. Does that make sense? So you all had your answers from next slides. So this is what formula again we just mentioned? 调味陈气汤. So 黄芩栀子, the clear the heat. And this is a part of the 黄连解毒汤, early part of that one, not really. But here is 薄荷黏巧, have some idea, looks a little bit partial ingredients of 银翘散, but not really, it's an early, but this is most important, have this 调味陈气汤, with combined here, control the heat, all over the body, triple burner. Here, specific control the heat through the bowel movement and the urination, as well as superficial levels. Now, here comes something interesting. Lower grade fever in the evening, possible night setting. Appetite okay, but patient still looks skinny. Red tongue body with scanty cold, deep, weak, thin pulses. So is it early stage Wenbing or later stage? Thank you. Once the level of temperature has become so low, usually the later stage, so usually will show some level of body fluid insufficiency. If the tongue coating have insufficient tongue coat, also very red, maybe problem still in the nutritive level if they still experience fever at night or with possible skin rashes and disturbing sleep or nighttime sweating. But if the pulses like this one tells what? More severe insufficiency in the level. So you can definitely not using 针叶沉积. They only supply the yin, clear the heat, and dealing with dryness and toxicity. They have nothing dealing with insufficient qi related with these weak processes. 生脉 yin has not have sufficient ingredients clear the heat. So here, 青蒿鳖甲汤 will be more suitable. Have ingredients supply the yin, also have ingredients vent heat out to superficial levels. But if you say I use a modified 生脉 fine. Once you become modified, you can add other ingredients to clear the heat using 生脉 and supply the yin and the qi. But here for the options here, and 青蒿鳖甲汤 is the most suitable one. Yes, here have answers. All right. Next one, spasm, trimming, fatigue, fever worse at night. So once the fever worse at night, we know heat is go to which level? Qi level or Vi level or nutritive and blood level? Either heat in the nutritive level or is a latent passage of the heat, the remaining of the heat. The most important information here, very, very severe palpitations and possible pain in the chest. And this tells us what? When the teeth become black. Teeth, skin rashes, and tongue differential diagnosis very important in Wenbing study. So once the teeth become black, kidney deficiency, kidney gene has been had very severe injury and scorching heat in the past. And there's a falseness pulse tells that qi has also been depleted. Irregular pulse further supported by this palpitation suffering. So very, very bad hard yin, hard qi has been in through the previous severe and heat invasion. With additional dry, deep heat, further evidence tells a very serious dehydration, but still have residue of the heat has not been resolved. So 二加福麦汤. And if you have no idea, clinically always using 炙甘草汤 can using 炙甘草汤 or 生脉饮. So that means 3 of these formula all can be used as in modifications in the clinic. But if you choose the most suitable one is 二加复麦汤 is the most suitable one. So clinically, all this formula can be used. But I'm going to choose the most suitable one based on Wenbing concept. 二甲复麦汤 is the ideal one. This is modified of 炙甘草汤. So this is modified the 炙甘草汤, still using chief ingredients 炙甘草 and 生地 as a major ingredients. Take a very large dosage. And with additional 麦门冬阿胶火麻仁 from original 炙甘草汤 formula, added additional 2 to calming, supplying, and sedating the mind. And using this one combined together with 牡蛎 to dealing with possible wind and any kind of severe yin damage causing weakness. And here's a composition comparison. You can have a look at the difference between this kind of formula. They're all from original formula 炙甘草汤, which is come from 伤寒论. And then when people discuss the 温病 concept, a lot of modified 炙甘草汤 has been built up. So first, the build up added additional 白芍 into the 炙甘草汤, become 医甲附麦汤, added both, added additional 牡蛎 by remove the 麻子仁, it become 医甲. First one is 加减附麦汤, second is 医甲附麦汤. And when added 鳖甲 and increased dosage of 麻子仁 from original formula of 一甲 become 二甲, and then they change it from 三甲 modified from one another. Now you are not required to memorize exact composition of this formula. You only need to know all of these are modified of 炙甘草汤. Is that better? Okay, have a look at this formula. Fever, irritability, insomnia, red with thin and black, dry, yellow cold, thin and rapid pulses. So a lot of hard heat here. Combined together with the tongue body. It also have some level of what? Yin weakness there. So 黄连阿胶汤 will be suitable. Huang Nian Ajiao Tang have two yellow brother, bitter cold Huang Nian and Huang Qing, with additional yin tonic ingredients, Ajiao, Bai Shao, and egg yolk make very good yin or jing consolidation. So these very nice combinations. Do be careful, use proper dosage of Huang Nian based on individual clients. This very large dosage has been presented in the second line. Okay, any question for today? Yes, Charlie.
So with the 二加福麦汤，
二
it's
甲
like
福麦汤
二加
yes.
福麦汤。
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it take away the 麻子仁 or add more 麻子仁?
Yep.
Is it take away because it's like it's adding more?
That's the original reason people construct that formula. Yeah, I cannot ask you why. I just try to understanding what kind of actions from the final compositions inside the formula.
So take away, right? Okay.
Yes,
Just,
minus means take away. Yes. Thank
because
you.
in 二加 one is it put add.
If the plus means added in, yes.
Okay, okay.
Minus is means remove and plus
yeah,
means,
okay.
means adding. Yeah. Now here I want
Okay,
to have a look this additional, just one or two of these very important. You all can see the peeling of the tongue. Can we all see that one? Peeling of the tongue coating. Can we all see the peeling from the tongue coating the slice? Yes. All right. Now, which tongue image could remind you much more easy commonly happen in the Wenbing? Thank you. All of them could happen in Wenbing. suffering. Would you mind turn off your voice, Charlie? It's a lot of echo. Thank you. Now, this tongue with greasy one, white one, very easy happening in the damp worms suffering. And this one happening in the later stage of Wenbing, had very severe injuries in the up and towards the middle, but mainly upper jaw. Same for this one, after suffering damp worms, had very severe damage of the yin in the upper jaws here. But still, they have lots of possible dampness accumulations. One is possible from unnecessary bitter cold herbs overindulging, or from improper dietary intaking, or from medication using. Because all the tongue color are not red for the first and second, so none of the first and second present in a more severe condition Wenbing. But for this one, could present it in middle stage or middle later stage of damp heat worms. Why? Because the tongue color is what color? A little bit darker than the pink, yes. More red dull or more darker color than the pink color. So this tells you the heat is internally. It's not in the qi level, not in the wi level, it's trapped internally. If this presentation of a tongue in a clinic, they have nothing to do with Wenbing, this tells you what? From this information, we discussed many times now, we are able to say that. So with this, what this image of tongue reminds you? What kind of information they give you? They never had high temperatures, but when the tongue presented like this, good, the damp all over. So not just upper jaw, middle jaw, lower jaw, all over the body. And anything else? A lot of hard heat. So this heat is congestion heat and possible blood. Why blood deficiency? Congestion heat, yes. Why blood deficiency? Because tongue body is not paler. Tip, okay, that's good point. Okay, if you see this dent here, they may have some level of disturbing sleep due to insufficient yin, because when you have such greasy and all over of white, thick tongue coating covered, body usually don't have sufficient yin. This kind of yin injuries due to too much products has made it become damp pathogen. And with this dent tip at the beginning, they may have disturbing sleep and presented because you can see so many taste buds presented in the surface of the tongue. Can we see all this? Yes, because the dent have possible some in-level deficiency resulting disturbing sleep. But most importantly, you will see there are so many emotional disturbings and causing either anxious or disturbing sleep. So these may be from previous heat pathogen trapped if they have recorded, memorized high temperatures. If it's not, usually related long-term emotional constraint. Because all this distribution of the dots all over of her bodies, a lot of the dots all over due to congestion heat. If this congestion heat is not come from external trapped unresolved pathogens, will come long-term emotional constraint. So liver's qi has not been proper flow for a long time. That's why overall tongue coat a bit more dull red, not fresh. So they don't have enough oxygen to make it fresh. And the diet, improper diet can damage spleen's qi. Yes, when spleen's qi has been damaged, will constrain the liver's qi, causing liver's qi's obstructions. Yes, that maybe not come from emotional, but when you have very unhappy spleen, what's happening with your emotion? You're getting very joyful, you're getting very cranky. We all had children at home, yes? Children do not have a lot of emotional constraint compared with adults. But once the children suffering a lot of digestion disorder, what they do for the baby, they cry. They cry. They just cry day and night. They don't want to go to sleep. So many gas in the stomach, so many discomfort, and qi blockage with such a level of damp. And that can result in indirect emotional constraint. If the digestion cannot be restored, they'll keep crying, become vicious circles. Especially if the cry cannot get attention from parents, And the causes of this kind of indigestion cannot be resolved on time, and they become very, very bad habit build up in the very early stage of infant life. So eventually they'll build up as a kind of congestion heat due to emotion not able to be resolved from unnecessary attention to get from the parents. Now there's a question, is the congestion heat in all level with this tongue? So which level is a major with congestion heat? Major mainly in the heart, as well as what? Which level of liver? Because there's no fever involved, we don't using 4-level differential diagnosis. Instead, we just based on location, correlate with organ or channel. Thank you, Helen. Now, for this one, first image, we can see the greasy tongue coating, very bad, turbid, greasy tongue coating, correlated with cracks in the middle, correlated with dehydrated tongue coating in the front. So when you construct the formula, do be careful. You need aromatic gentle herb to resolve the damp cold. Also, you need sweet and cooling herbs to supply the yin. Don't use too many heat resolving herbs. They can cause some serious damage because overall tongue body is have a heat at all. Only frontal part of the tongue shows to have trapped some unresolved heat. That's why frontal part of the tongue have a patch of the coating has been missing with relatively more redder than the other part of the tongue bodies overall. Same for the second slice. You still can see some level of residue of heat in the upper jaw. That's why huge dent presented in the frontal part of the tongue and deep cracks can be go through all over through the tongue. So they have residue of the heat still remaining, especially upper jaw, causing anxious irritability, maybe painful ulcerations in the tongue, and with some internal indeficiency based on the cracks printed. And tongue coating is a thin level tongue coating, but slightly thickening go to the rear regions on the back. So still some more severe indeficiency compared with first image. So both first, second image, when you need to construct formula for the clients, do be careful about the balance of proper flavor and taste of herbs to protect the yin, at the same time resolve residue of the heat and resolve accumulation of dampness. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Any questions? I just turn off the recording. If you have no questions, and I will see